Hey guys. This is part 2 of What If Naruto Had a Dog Companion. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 4, Team 7's Complex Relationship. Kakashi and Naruto. There was a month left before the Chunin exams begun, and Naruto wanted to ask Kakashi a favor. There was something he desperately wanted to start learning, and he needed the Jounin help. Naruto waited till Sasuke and Sakura were out of earshot before he approached the Jounin, excited that he would finally be able to start learning that taijutsu style. Kaka-sensei? Naruto asked hesitantly as the silver-haired man started walking away. HM? Kakashi asked as he peered down at his smallest student. There's something that I've been really wanting to learn for a while now, but it's something I need a lot of help with. It's a taijutsu style. I've got the instructions and everything. Do you think? Kakashi raised his hand up to silence the blonde. Before you even think about another style, I want you to go to Iruka and get him to reteach you the basic academy style. I'm sorry to say this, but your form is sloppy, Naruto. Naruto flinched but nodded. Then can't you show me the forms and I'll practice them? Naruto asked. Kakashi considered it before shaking his head. I haven't even seen the academy version for years. I think Iruka would really be a better teacher for this. Naruto reluctantly nodded before he left to ask Iruka for help. Iruka happily agreed to help him with his form, and so Naruto spent every single morning from 6 to 9 and after the academy let out from 4 to 5 with Iruka, painstakingly practicing the form over and over, and then sparring with the Chunin for 2 full weeks. Iruka was angry to find out that it was Mizuki's fault for teaching Naruto the wrong forms, the same man who later tried to kill Naruto and himself the night of graduation, and exceedingly proud that when shown the right forms Naruto easily picked them up. Iruka commented that, you would have gone so far in the academy if not for the teachers and their hatred. Naruto proceeded to blush as Iruka tousled his hair and dragged him to the ramen stand for dinner. When Naruto attempted to show Kakashi his improvement, the man simply waved him off, thinking that Naruto could never have improved so much in just 2 weeks, and that it was the boy's usual boastful nature. Naruto didn't go back to ask Iruka for help again, fearing that if he asked too much of the Chunin the man would become annoyed with him and wouldn't want to spend time with him anymore. An irrational fear seeing that the man saw him as a little brother, but years of hatred from everyone around him caused Naruto to be quite negative in the expectations of others. So Naruto practiced his forms for hours on his own whenever he had free time. A week later, after their team did a series of easy but tedious missions, Naruto went to look for their sensei as they started individual training. He spotted Kakashi speaking with Sakura several dozen yards away. His hearing being far better than a normal human, heard the conversation long before he got there. Do you think you could teach me some of your taijutsu, sensei? I know it will take a while to learn, but I'd like to start. Alright. Why don't we start tomorrow morning bright and early? I warn you though, it will require a lot of work. You're going to have to increase your chakra reserves a great deal, so I want you to work on the water walking exercise I taught you a few days ago for long periods of time. I think you'll do well with this taijutsu though, and I think I'll start you on a few more advanced genjutsu illusions as well. Practicing with them will increase your reserves almost as fast as the water walking technique. Naruto stopped in his tracks, deeply hurt, and turned around to head back to his personal spot. Naruto spent the late afternoon running up trees, trying to improve his chakra control on his own and ignore the ache that once more attacked him. Kakashi automatically assumed Sakura ready just because the girl asked. Naruto knew that Kakashi already taught Sasuke and Sakura the water walking technique and asked shortly after they'd learned it if he would teach him. Kakashi merely said that he thought Naruto would do better by sticking to the tree climbing exercise a bit longer, nearly a month ago. Naruto could stay attached upside down to a branch for an entire day now without missing a beat. If Kakashi didn't want to teach him anything, all he had to do was say so. It would hurt less instead of simply pushing him to the side all the time. He got it. He really did. He understood Kakashi didn't like him, but each time the man ruffled his hair or talked the team about teamwork and how they should rely and care about one another, it hurt deeply. You don't say one thing and do another. Naruto's admiration for his sensei died a little that day. It would be the last time till after the prelims that Naruto would ask the man to help with anything. From the very beginning. Only the weak speak loudly. Now let's forget the dunce and start on my signal. You talk a big game, but you're still only Naruto. You're a one-trick pony who hasn't got what it takes to win. Kakashi spoke harsher to him than the others. After his speech on friendship, he was left tied to the post. Every single time he would ask for help. I'm a little busy right now, Naruto. Why don't you go ask Sakura to explain it to you? Any time he needed help. Kaka-sensei, could you please help me with? Naruto, I need to get home, ask me tomorrow. The jounin disappeared. Was setting up a bank account because they won't let me in the doors. Kakashi always spoke with praise to Sasuke and Sakura but him. Kaka-sensei, could you teach me that genjutsu release you taught Sakura? Naruto, your weapon's aim needs a great deal of improvement. I want you to practice that first. I'll come check up on you, and when I think you've improved enough I'll teach it to you, though your chakra control may not be good enough. That was nearly 8 months ago, and Naruto was still waiting for the jounin approval. Naruto never asked if he'd improved though, cause he wasn't sure which hurt worse. Kakashi purposefully ignoring him, or simply forgetting about him, he figured ignorance was bliss. If he pretended that Kakashi would eventually come and help, it made the hurt a little less painful. The continuous tiny jabs. Kaka-sensei, I got you a plant for your birthday, I hope you like it. It's an aloe plant so you can use it for wounds. Thank you, Naruto, although I'd never imagined you'd like plants. Why not? Well, plants require patience. Not exactly one of your best qualities. Yet Kakashi failed to mention even once any of these best qualities. The single moment he could remember feeling an endless well of happiness involving his teacher was when Kakashi came to his window with a pile of vegetables, telling him that he should maintain a better diet than ramen. The fact that he cared enough to do that for him made Naruto want to burst with joy. It still didn't cover up the hurt of his sensei always calling him stupid though. Huh, Naruto, is that a book? HM. What about basics of making medicine? You want me to help you get something simpler? It might be easier for you to understand. Naruto decided that day that he wouldn't ever mention that he'd already read it 3 times, that he'd just been reviewing it, and read more advanced medicine books all the time. He loved working with plants and creating medicine from them. He considered himself very good at it, and feared what the jounin would say or think if he ever found out. The sting from that comment itself still caused him to triple-check all ingredients before he would make any medicine with them. Even when both Sasuke and Naruto made it to the finals of the Chunin exam. I found someone who will look after your training. Why? I want you, Kaka-sensei. I've got some business to take care of, so I don't have the time to look after you. I know you're planning to train Sasuke. Now don't say that. Because I've found a teacher for you who's much more reliable than me. Well, Naruto, of the 3 in Team 7 you're the one with the worst basic skills. Have him teach it to you thoroughly this time. Kakashi managed to not only push him off on another teacher but insult him by saying that the only reason he ever did anything right was due to his stamina, that training him meant nothing more to him than a babysitting job. During the finals of the Chunin exam, Kakashi refused to listen to him when he warned against Gaara, throwing his words away as if they meant nothing, like he was just a burden. Master, please stop this match right away. Gaara, he lives to kill others. If they keep going then Sasuke'll die. You'll be quiet and watch him, you'll be surprised. And then sent him, Sakura and Shikamaru after Sasuke when Kakashi realized his mistake. He would never apologize to Naruto for that, never thank Naruto for saving them from Gaara. Even after all that he'd accomplished, even though he'd accomplished just as much as Sasuke, even though Kakashi taught Sasuke just as deadly a technique, even though Sasuke fought him just as hard, Kakashi underestimated his hearing ability. Were you the one that taught Naruto that technique? I feel that Naruto is still too young to be able to control that level of a technique. In the worst-case scenario, it could have killed Sasuke. Even if it was for his own protection, teaching Naruto that technique was still. That, Naruto thought, hurt worse than anything. His sensei considered him to be too stupid to handle it, too immature, too beneath Sasuke. Sasuke, the perfect student, and him the imbecile and worthless student not good enough to breathe their air. Kakashi, Naruto knew, would always be considered one of his special people, but he'd always known that he wasn't considered one of his teacher's special people. He just always tried to ignore the fact and keep on smiling. It was okay, he told himself, because he never considered himself to be good enough for such a thing either. Sasuke and Naruto. Sasuke Uchiha was in a foul mood. All day it was one bad thing after another. First the water pipes burst, leaving his shower to suddenly turn cold. Then he'd managed to trip on his way to school and hit his head hard. This left him with a rather horrible headache all day long. Unfortunately, that only started it all. All day, every single minute of it, those screaming girls shrieked in his ear, causing the headache to worsen and grate on his nerves. Next, while enduring the headache and girls, Kurama-sensei thought it would be wonderful to hold a test. Normally he wouldn't mind, he knew all the material, but the estimations and formations it quizzed on seemed 10 times harder to answer today. And then after all that he'd been forced to endure, an entire hour after school let out for the day of Kurama-sensei telling him how proud she was of his remarkable work, and how she was saddened that she would no longer be his teacher in a few short weeks. The fun didn't quite stop there though. Oh no, his normal training area was flooded with chunin and his pier occupied by a couple of fishermen. His pier where for the past 2 years he'd waited exactly 1 hour after school let out every day for the brief moment of peace and understanding that came when he saw Naruto. They rarely talked at the academy and never once allowed anyone to think they were friends, but Sasuke accepted Naruto as a fellow orphan who could relate to him. So when they saw each other each day, it was a reassurance for them both. Something that simply said, "You're not alone?" Sasuke treasured that brief moment each day, and the fact that he'd been denied it royally pissed him off. He missed Naruto anyway thanks to Kurama-sensei, but his 10-year-old mind stubbornly ignored this fact as he glared down on the fisherman. So when in the middle of the night a knocking from his front door woke him up, Sasuke Uchiha was in a foul mood. Sasuke swung his body out of bed and marched to the front door in his pajamas. The sound of thunder and patter of heavy rain met his ears and did nothing to lighten his mood. If anything, it made it worse. Rain always reminded him of the night after the massacre when he'd raced to his family's home. Sasuke yanked the door open and glared at whoever the bastard was that woke him up at such a god-forsaken hour. Naruto Uzumaki stood outside his door. Drenched. Shivering. Alone. "What do you want, you idiot?" Sasuke snarled out. If Sasuke hadn't been in a foul mood, he most likely would have noticed the hurt look that entered the smaller boy's eyes. If he hadn't been in a foul mood, he might have noticed the red tinge across whiskered cheeks that showed signs of fever. If he hadn't been in a foul mood, there was the possibility that the Uchiha could have noticed the bruises around the blonde's wrists and along his arms. Unfortunately, Sasuke never saw any of this. He only saw the wide grin on Naruto's face that made his irritation mount. Sasuke watched the blonde wrap his arms around himself to keep warm and the smile drop a little bit. "Sasuke. Would it be okay if..." Naruto stuttered loudly, the sound echoing into Sasuke's bare home. "Will you just spit it out already?" Sasuke snarled. Naruto flinched, but it went unnoticed by the Uchiha. "Could I please stay the night here?" "Just for tonight," Naruto pleaded. Sasuke stared at him disbelievingly for several moments. The rain continued to fall, droplets sliding down chilled tan skin and soaked material. Naruto shifted from foot to foot nervously, eyes trained on the ground. "Why in the world would I let you spend the night at my house?" Sasuke finally asked. Naruto looked up, startled by the harshness there. Sasuke continued, unaware of what he was actually doing. "We've only ever talked like what? 3 times maybe? The only thing I really know about you is that you're an orphan and an idiot. You're also a prankster. How do I know you won't do something to my home while I sleep?" Sasuke asked. Naruto took a step back, the smile bigger than before. "Well, it's just... I thought that we were friends. It's just for tonight. I'll be gone before you even wake up," Naruto said cheerily, his voice louder than need be. Friends? Sasuke whispered, his brother's voice seeping into his mind. To obtain eyes like mine, you must kill your closest friend. Whoever said, Sasuke asked quietly, that we were friends? Naruto took another step back, out of the shelter of the doorway and fully into the rain. He stood, smile never wavering and eyes closed, under the onslaught of the rain and Sasuke's words. You and me? We're not friends and we will never be friends. You're nothing but a complete idiot who can't do anything right. Go home. Naruto's head bowed forward, ragged as strands of hair in front of his eyes. Sorry. Naruto told Sasuke cheerily, I misunderstood. I do that a lot. Naruto's voice wavered for a bit but steadied. Sorry. Good night, Sasuke. And with that, Naruto turned and ran. Sasuke angrily slammed the door shut and went back to bed. If Sasuke hadn't been in a foul mood, he might have noticed the stream of blood that seeped from the corner of Naruto's mouth. If he hadn't been in a foul mood, he would have noticed the drop in temperatures that signaled the start of something worse than rain. Unfortunately, like most 10-year-olds, the world revolves around them and they hardly have time to notice when someone else is having a bad day. They don't consider the consequences either. The long time hurt a memory can carry even when it's those very memories that haunt their own mind. The 10-year-old did notice though, when Naruto stopped walking by the pier. Naruto always had known that Sasuke was alone, and used to be glad that he'd found someone like himself. He was happy, he wanted to get to know Sasuke right away, but it wasn't so simple. Sasuke was the most popular student in the school, he could do anything and everyone always loved him. Naruto knew that they were too different, that he wasn't good enough to talk to him. He tried a few times, even managed to talk to Sasuke for a while. It was a lot of fun. No one had been as nice to him as Sasuke had, and so he let himself think that they were friends. He was brought back to reality that night though. His home was burned a few days beforehand and he was desperate after he'd accidentally run into a couple of drunks. He ran as far and as fast as possible after escaping them, and with luck came across Sasuke's home. After Sasuke turned him down, the temperature dropped and water froze to snow. He spent that night in one of the plastic tubes of the park near the academy, and almost died. Not long after that came the incident, and slowly the opinion of himself got worse and worse till he felt worthless. He knew he could never be Sasuke's friend, so settled for pretending he was good enough to be Sasuke's rival. Even though he had no friends, he felt that arguing with Sasuke kept him somewhat sane. He had nothing else. No one cared about him, no one wanted him, everyone hated him, and he didn't want to think about that. He had no purpose for being alive except in being able to argue with Sasuke, to be berated by Sakura. They were the only ones in the world who so much as knew that he existed, even if it was just because he bothered them. It hurt so much to know he would never be anything else to them, to anyone for that matter, but desperately held on to it. Every time he left the academy he felt numb, a dark nothingness that consumed his body so that even the citizens of Konoha couldn't touch him. Then by some strange miracle he was placed on Sasuke and Sakura's team. Sasuke always insulted him, always hated him, always degraded him. Naruto always argued back, disagreed vehemently, but in the end silently agreed with everything Sasuke had to say about him. Sasuke was his idol, the person he looked up to more so than anyone else in the world. Naruto was a despised monster that everyone hated, Sasuke the perfect individual that everyone loved. So Naruto tried desperately to be like him, to try to be what everyone liked, and hated himself more each time he failed and lost to Sasuke, cause it just proved how worthless he was. When Sasuke told him that he, Naruto the Worthless, was one of the ones he wanted to fight in the preliminaries and finals, Naruto was never happier when he heard that. Sasuke finally acknowledged him, acknowledged that he was good, he was finally given something to be proud of by his team, but then they'd fought on the roof. It was as if his whole world fell apart. You dimwit idiot, what are you so full of yourself for? Eh? What are you losing your cool for? That's so unlike you. What? Are you afraid now that you've challenged me to a fight, huh, Sasuke? Shut up and fight. Before we start, you better put on this leaf headband. I don't need something like that. Just do it. You won't even lay a finger on me, let alone my forehead. That's not the point. I'm saying this is a symbol that we fight as equal leaf ninja. That's why I say you're full of yourself. You think you're on par with me? Of course I do. In fact, I've never thought of myself as inferior to you, not even once. It was as if everything up until then was worthless. Everything Naruto had worked for Kakashi's respect, for Sasuke's acknowledgement, it was gone. He was once more nothing. He'd thought when they fought Gaara that Sasuke had included him when he'd spoken about precious comrades, but Sasuke still considered him as beneath him. Could someone you considered to be worthless be precious to you at the same time? Naruto didn't think so. Every grain of self-worth he'd built up since the day they'd become genin turned to dust as if it were never there. He'd worked so hard, nearly died to bring back Tsunade to heal Kakashi and Sasuke after Itachi sent them both into a coma. Neither of them thanked him. Both of them squeezed their fists around his heart until its beats slowed to a barely alive rate, cracking it. Sakura and Naruto. And this is the short dinner sect. By Kishi Hisake. They'd been assigned a C-rank mission in delivering medical supplies to one of the Fire Nation's most advanced hospitals near its capital. They'd been traveling for 2 days now, and the sun just set itself below the horizon, causing Team 7 to set up camp for the night. A cycle for chores became designated to each team member, as this was to be a week-long mission. Tonight Sakura handled the tents, Sasuke got the firewood, and Naruto cooked the dinner. Sakura, while setting up the boys' tent, watched Naruto bustle around the slowly growing fire. Naruto hummed to himself a tune that Sakura would secretly admit to herself to be calming and beautiful. Never in a million years would Sakura ever say that the blonde member of their team possessed an extremely nice voice when he wasn't yelling about something or other. The blonde grinned as he took a whiff of the stew before nodding to himself and mumbling something under his breath as he added a herb she didn't recognize. Then he rushed off to chop up some rabbit meat he'd caught not even an hour ago into small pieces to add to his concoction. All through this he kept glancing over to her while she worked on the tents, saying things like, "Nah, Sakura-chan. You're going to love this. Don't worry, it isn't ramen." Sakura smiled to herself, who knew that Naruto would be the one on the team to enjoy cooking. Little did they know that dinner would not be the most appetizing thing to look at. Naruto. What is this? Kakashi, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke were seated together beside a large fire. Naruto turned his gaze up to the rest of the team, the strange goop that he called stew bulging his cheeks out unattractively. He quickly swallowed his mouthful of goop and grinned at the rest of them, who were staring down at the stew like it was an alien that had just come out of their mother's womb instead of their little brother. What cha mean? This is what I have at home sometimes. It's easy to make and fills you up. Sasuke looked down at his bowl again, and then sat down in front of him, scooting it away from him with his foot. I'm not eating this. Kakashi set his down as well, not exactly trusting the way his bowl of goop was bubbling. No offense, Naruto. Sakura stared at hers as well, then sighed. I can't eat something like this. It's just not very, well, appetizing, she said, putting hers on the ground next to the others. For a second, he stared at them, a flash of something unfamiliar in his eyes, then he grinned, squinting his eyes like he normally did. Oh, come on, guys. It's really good. It isn't bad. I promise, he said, digging into his bowl again. Sakura, her hunger eating away at her mood, glared at him. Naruto, I told you I wasn't going to eat it. It just doesn't look good. She scoffed. I can't definitely say that you are able to keep all of your promises. Naruto paused in his eating for a moment, turning to look at her. Well, I'm promising you now that it's not that bad. He grinned again. So just try it. If you honestly don't like it, then you can throw it away or better yet give it to me, I'll eat it. Sakura gave him an unsure look. Then her stomach gave a loud growl, and she sighed. Picking up her bowl, she gulped down her fear and brought a spoonful of the strange goop up. She vaguely registered that Kakashi and Sasuke were leaning in, watching her intently. Slowly, she opened up her mouth and took a bite. She chewed thoughtfully for a moment, allowing the taste to slide across her tongue. It wasn't really that bad. She had to admit that even though it looked like it could eat her alive, it didn't have too bad of a taste. Swallowing her bite, she dipped her spoon back in and took another bite. Kakashi and Sasuke shared a glance, then began to carefully take small bites themselves. Naruto watched them eat while serving himself a second bowl, making sure to keep his hair in front of his eyes. None of the others realized that he was waiting for some sort of a, "Hey, it isn't half bad," or "Sorry that I said all that stuff." And because of that, he quietly ate the rest of his food, not bothering to lift his eyes to meet anyone else's. No one on Team 7 would say anything to him for the rest of the night, and Naruto would not approach anyone. The blonde would quietly slip into his sleeping bag and keep his back to the rest of them for the entirety of the night. "Sakura, I have to know, what do you think of Naruto? If he had his way, I'd never find love or happiness. He ruins everything. He enjoys tormenting me. Naruto doesn't understand me at all. I can't stand to have him anywhere near me." He'd always knew Sakura disliked him, but it wasn't until the day they became genin that he knew she hated him. It was the reason he didn't bother to try and get the others to work with him during the bell test. After he'd heard the rules, he thought that he'd be sent back to the academy, and that he deserved it. The only thought that crossed his mind during the test was that he was happy that Sasuke and Sakura at least would be able to graduate as genin. He knew that they would be happier without him anyways. At the time, he'd still been deeply confused by the incident with Mizuki and Irika, still wondering if it wouldn't just be better if he slit his own throat. It wasn't until he started to spend a good deal of time with Irika that he'd felt any type of worth about himself. He owed Irika everything and could give the man nothing, something he felt horrible about. Sakura, during his time in the academy and just when he'd meet Irika, she was the only other person besides Sasuke who responded to his pestering. Everyone else in the academy ignored him as if he weren't even there. It was as if there was a wall between him and the rest of the world, but there was a tiny crack where Sasuke and Sakura could hear him. Most of the time he felt horrible for bothering them, but at the same time he felt worse when they turned away, as if he'd slip under a current just laying beneath his feet, dying to grab a hold of him. He did like Sakura a lot, but he knew she'd never like him back. He was content with just being near her because he enjoyed listening to her talk about anything and everything. Slowly it got to where she actually seemed to like talking to him, something new he'd never had with anyone his own age. He could sit and talk to her for hours, but in the end she would get tired of it and insult him before leaving. He could handle that, as long as she eventually came back. It wasn't until he was in the hospital room, though, that everything came into perspective for him. He'd worked so hard to get Tsunade to come to Konoha first and foremost to heal his injured teammates. He'd not wanted anything but a small thank you from just one of them. Something to show that they recognized his hard work and cared that he'd gone to such lengths for them. Sakura didn't say a word, just as Kakashi and Sasuke said nothing. It hurt a lot, but it wasn't like he couldn't deal with it. What crushed him was the things they said to him after he'd worked so hard to help them, telling him how worthless he was. It was something that Sakura did that caused Naruto to realize something, though. She ignored him and rushed to Sasuke's side the moment Tsunade healed him. She enraptured Sasuke in a hug of care and joy. Sakura, not in a million years' time, would ever do the same for him. Naruto knew this fact just the same as he knew the back of his hand. She would never spend every day in a hospital room waiting for him to get better. He doubted she'd even visit. She would never hug him, or even touch him, no matter how much pain he was in. She would never jump in front of an enemy attack for him as she'd done for Sasuke against Gaara. She would never so much as peel an apple for him as she'd done for Sasuke. He'd already known this deep down, but it was the fact that he knew what was coming that nearly broke him. He knew the moment he saw her enrapture Sasuke. They were moving on. They were growing closer together while he was being forced back. Naruto doubted he'd even be able to say goodbye when it happened. They would simply be there one day and gone the next. They would move on to better things, they would be promoted faster, be together longer, possibly forever. He would be left to fall under the current by himself. His anchors would be gone, and he would either have to find a way to shore or drown. All that was left was to figure out which one would hurt less. Sakura never said a word to him, but it echoed volumes. That's what hurt the most about what Kakashi and Sasuke said not 2 days later. It was as if they'd heard Sakura cry that silent alarm, that it was time to let him swim or drown, and it appeared they were voting for the latter. He didn't think he'd make it much longer, Even his pretend world couldn't cope with so much hatred from the people he cared about most, his pretend world where his team cared as much about him as he did them. So Naruto showed up for practice and missions as he'd always done before, smiling like an idiot, making sure not to look either of them in the eye. He'd keep his pretend world up as long as he could and then swim as long as possible in whatever ocean they threw him in. Until a dog was thrown in with him. Chapter 5: You work where? When Guruko and Naruto made it to the training grounds early the next day, Naruto once more practiced his weapon's aim, pounding kunai after kunai into the bark with a vengeance. The sound of wood splintering resounded through the area, as each hit dug deep into every bullseye. Guruko wasn't sure why Naruto even practiced so much with his shuriken and kunai, since the blonde could give any jounin a run for their money. Of course, as the dog watched, he reasoned that it might be a stress reliever for the boy, with how he was making chunks fly from the tree. As before, all evidence of the said practice session involving Naruto was gone by the time his teammates showed up at the designated hour. The events that took place were eerily similar to Naruto's prediction on how Sasuke and Sakura would react to his absence. Naruto bore through Sakura's yelling and Sasuke's contempt with a strained smile that caused Guruko to whine miserably beside the blonde. Guruko audibly moaned when either of his teammates asked why the blonde was absent. If he'd taken up that bet, he'd have lost an awful lot of money. "Naruto, do you hear Guruko? He sounds sick. What did you do?" Sakura asked as she bent down to pet the dog's head. "He got stuck on a team with you too," Guruko thought bitterly. Not even a week ago would Guruko have said that he very much liked Sasuke and Sakura. They were good people after all, but almost a week of seeing through Naruto's perspective left the dog tempting to bite the hand that petted his head so soothingly. The absolute ignorance of Sasuke and Sakura to Naruto's life was mind-blowing. Did they know Naruto worked 2 jobs? Did they know Naruto had financial problems? Did they know about the horrible treatment their teammate faced every day or that he got sick every week? Guruko hoped to God that they didn't know, because if they did and they just let it continue to happen without offering any help, Guruko swore he'd rip off one of their limbs. If they asked why he was absent, would Naruto have even have told them that it was because a man attacked him and hurt him? Even now Guruko wasn't sure if the blonde needed medical treatment. Naruto's sheer ability to deceive the people around him caused the dog to shudder. If the Hokage ever found out about the blonde's skills, Naruto would probably be placed on a team for undercover work immediately. Not many shinobi showed such blatant skill of one of the most important arts of being a ninja. While within the apartment this morning the blonde was a mess, the boy looked as if he'd be sick any moment now, and he wore a grim expression while pouring breakfast for Guruko. Then, as if he'd suddenly been replaced by someone else, he put on his clothes and walked out the door with Guruko with the actions of someone going to a celebration. A large grin sat on his lips, there was a bounce in his walk, and he talked animatedly to Guruko the whole way to the training area. He'd slipped on an emotional mask as easily as shinobi slipped a kunai from their pouch. It was very difficult for Guruko, who knew the smiles and grins of the preteen before him were fake, to tell that they were strained at all. For the most part they seemed natural. The only thing that gave Naruto away at all was that the crinkle in his eyes was a little too tight, as if the mere act of smiling and laughing was painful. "Naruto, I asked you what you did to Guruko," Sakura repeated herself. Naruto shrugged. "He looks fine to me," Naruto muttered. "What was that?" Sakura asked in a too-sweat voice. "I said, I don't know, I thought I did everything right," Naruto rephrased. "Dobe, do you need someone to hold your hand for everything?" Sasuke growled. "I didn't do anything wrong," Naruto snapped back. "Then why is Kakashi's dog acting like he's gonna die?" Sasuke snarled. Guruko sighed in exasperation before getting up and padding over to Naruto and tugging on the pant of his leg with his teeth. Naruto paused in his comeback and bent down, to which Guruko licked his face happily. Really, Guruko was finding it increasingly difficult to get his point across without just saying it. Naruto smirked. Sasuke frowned and turned away. Sakura just stared, slightly confused at the sudden change in the dog's attitude. "I knew you were just being a drama queen," Naruto whispered as he scratched behind the dog's ear. Guruko huffed and went back to his laying down position beside Pakin, who was wearily watching him, wondering not for the first time why Guruko was acting so strange. When Naruto went to practice the leaf exercise once more, Pakken pulled Guruko to the side as Sakura began to demonstrate to Sasuke how to dismantle a genjutsu without the aid of the Sharingan. "Why are you still not talking, and why are you acting like a whining child?" Pakken snapped at him. Guruko growled angrily at the smaller dog. "Does Kakashi know about Naruto's home life?" Guruko asked, barely holding in his rage. "What are you talking about? Is something wrong?" Pakken asked, this time his voice lowered and concerned. "Hell yes, something's wrong. Everything's wrong. He's working 2 jobs, struggling to make ends meet, and the other day a man hurt him just outside his home. Naruto needs to get out of there immediately." Guruko snarled as he began to limp back and forth in his aggravation. "Hurt him?" Pakken asked, startled. "It's healed now thanks to the kid's healing abilities, but it was bad, Pakken, real bad. And from what I saw, it wasn't the first time the man got a hold of him. With how Naruto acted afterwards, I think that man's been hurting him for a long time," Guruko said darkly. Pakken's eyes wandered over to the blonde in question, who sat far from everyone else near the lake, frustration clear his face as the leaf fell off again. "Have you informed anyone?" Pakken asked. "The Hokage should know by now," Guruko said quietly. "She'll be tearing heads off to find the man." Guruko watched as Naruto suddenly stood up and walked onto the lake before sitting down directly in the middle of the lake and attempting to perform the exercise while simultaneously balancing on the surface of the water. Guruko couldn't help but smirk as the leaf stayed on immediately. He'd been correct, it wasn't the difficulty of the exercise or that Naruto couldn't understand how to perform it, it was the level of chakra needed for the exercise. Naruto was a Jinchuriki with larger chakra reserves than the Hokage, so it was simply impossible to draw out such a small amount of chakra. Neither of his teammates seemed to have noticed their teammate's achievement, though. Guruko sighed in annoyance. "There isn't anything else we can do then, it's up to the Hokage. Just keep an eye on him until she makes her move," Pakken said from beside him. Guruko nodded as he watched Naruto continue to practice, moving from using one leaf to several on different points on his body. When they got home later that day, Naruto fell tiredly onto his bed and closed his eyes, Guruko wagging his tails happily at him as he pulled at the blonde's shoes till they came off. Naruto reached down and pulled the dog up onto the bed with him, absently stroking the light brown fur as Guruko snuggled up against him. "You know you're the devil, right?" Naruto said tiredly. "I gotta get up in a few minutes, and make dinner, and take you out, and then I gotta go to work and you're here making me all comfortable? That's just cruel," Naruto said sleepily. Guruko yipped in agreement before making himself comfortable and falling asleep. "Little bastard," Naruto muttered. Naruto did get up only a few minutes later and far too soon for Guruko's liking and was on his way to his second job. It was about time, Guruko thought, that he found out what this second job was. The moment the door closed, Guruko limped to the window and gently prodded the farthest window pane to the right. The window pane swung open easily, something he'd accidentally figured out on his excavation of Naruto's home, and squeezed through until he stood on the rather large ledge that encircled the entire building. Being careful of the edge, Guruko carefully limped around the building till he came to the opening where the stairs lay. There was a 3-foot drop that while it would jar his leg wound, it wouldn't be too painful. Guruko hoped down and sniffed the air. Damn, that kid went far in such a short amount of time. He'd never have expected that Naruto could walk so fast with those short legs of his. Naruto lived in the worst section of Konohagakure, a place even the shinobi tread carefully in, filled with drunks, druggies and the like. Considering this caused Guruko to feel his heart sink deep into his chest when Naruto's scent led him deeper into the filthy neighborhood rather than away from it. It took Guruko a considerable amount of time to navigate his way to the place due to his leg, but when he finally stopped in front of the building of Naruto's second job, the dog almost blanched. "Naruto works at a bar?" Guruko thought in horror. Guruko cautiously made his way inside and felt his nose twitch at the intense smell of liquor. It was difficult to pick up Naruto's scent among all the other strong odors, but Guruko wasn't on Kakashi's team for nothing. The dog made his way to the back and snuck through a curtained doorway to a dimly lit kitchen area. There Naruto stood among a sea of burly men washing the dishes, his small body paling in comparison to those around him, a tall stack of dishes beside him that would probably take the blonde a while to get through. Guruko shrunk back into the shadows of a corner as a large man walked in with a big stack of dishes, chuckling as he placed them down none too gently beside the already generous pile there. Naruto sighed dejectedly as the man chuckled and disappeared the way he came. With the man continuously coming in with more dishes, it took Naruto 3 full hours to get them all cleaned and put away for the night. It was 9 o'clock, so the dinner guests would be thinning while the orders for alcoholic beverages would be increasing. Guruko watched from the corner the entire time, almost falling asleep on more than one occasion. After all, watching someone clean dishes was about as much fun as doing them. Not that he ever experienced doing dishes, but he'd heard Kakashi complained about it several times at home. Naruto. A tall man in his mid-30s walked through the curtained doorway, his scalp as bare as a baby's bottom and had small, gold-hooped earrings hanging from each lobe. He was not fat but rather broad-shouldered with tattoos covering the entirety of his left arm. In other words, he was big, scary, and strong. "Yes, Satoshi?" Naruto asked as he dried his pruned hands off from the soapy water. So this was Naruto's boss. "You." Scary. Guruko couldn't help but think. "Waiter called in sick last minute, time to make up for not coming in the other night," Satoshi said. His words came out in a grating, croaking whisper, as if at one point he'd had his voice box ripped out and shoved back in the wrong way. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck tiredly while nodding. "All right," Naruto said as he took up a waiter's apron and tied it around his waist. The waiters got paid more than he did, so it was a punishment for Naruto to work as a waiter for the same amount he always got. Naruto touched the wraps around his face to make sure they were secure and pushed a stray strand of blonde hair back up into his bandana before walking out into the crowded and slightly smoky front room. Guruko quietly followed and hid in the shadow of the large bar counter. Guruko watched closely, weary of any sudden movements on the drunk's part. Naruto smiled at each of the customers as he wrote down their orders, and for the most part the customers behaved themselves, though a few women flirted with him. Naruto just smiled at them and dealt with it with ease. Guruko almost revealed himself though when a drunken man roughly grabbed a hold of the blonde's shoulder and demanded more beer be served to him immediately, but stopped himself as Naruto easily removed himself from the man's grip and assured him that he'd have another drink for the man in a minute. The drunk calmed down enough to nod eagerly and proclaimed to the table that more young people should be as obedient as the lad. 9 turned to 10 and that turned into 11, Naruto's quitting time, which allowed Guruko to sigh in relief. A 12-year-old shouldn't be working in a bar. Guruko was going to have many words with Kakashi for not watching his students closer. It was not to be a peaceful leave though. As Naruto finished up delivering his last order to a table in the corner, a rather intoxicated woman grabbed a hold of Naruto's wrist and pulled him to her. Naruto gently tugged his wrist out of her grip and began to walk away. The woman was persistent though. She lurched from her seat at the booth and stumbled behind him until she leaned heavily against his shoulder. Hey, now that's not very nice OUs, she said with a hiccup. "I'm sorry but I'm off now, please go to another waiter," Naruto said gently as he removed her from him again. "I knows that," she said indignantly. "I's only wanted to know if you've wanted me as much as I've wanted you." The woman slurred with a giggle. "Sorry, not interested," Naruto said as he tried to leave again. The woman took a 180 in the emotional scale and started to cry, right in the middle of the bar. "Wise as not? USE thinks I'm ugly than you?" The woman yelled loudly, her cries turning to wails before she lurched forward and grabbed Naruto's wrist again. "I'm not ugly, you stupid jerk!" the woman cried out. Naruto winced as the woman's nails dug into his arm and roughly removed his hand from her grip. "I never said you were ugly, I just said I'm not interested," Naruto said as he made it to the front of the bar and began to take the waiter's apron off. Guruko moved closer, ready to attack the woman if she tried anything worse. The woman sniffled loudly, her hand half covering her mouth. "So do yous think I's petty?" she asked quietly. "You're a very beautiful woman," Naruto told her with a strained grin. The woman nodded her head and smiled happily, a hiccup escaping her lips as she looked at Naruto again. She moved forward and attempted to grab him again, but Naruto once more moved away from her and let her bump into the bar's counter. I said, Naruto gritted out, that I'm not interested. As the women began to wail again, Naruto ducked into the back room and leaned against the wall, messaging his forehead with a slightly shaking hand. God, I hate this job, Naruto muttered to himself as he tiredly straightened up. Satoshi. I'm heading home now, Naruto called, the only response being a loud grunt from the bar. Come on, Guruko, let's go home. The dog gave a guilty start as he slunk out of the shadows and gave the blonde a questioning look. Naruto chuckled tiredly as he stretched. I wouldn't be a very good shinobi if I didn't notice a dog with a chakra signature following me around, Naruto said crookedly. Guruko lowered his head further and whined. Yeah, I don't care what your excuse is, you aren't doing this again, you hear? Naruto said sternly as he began to walk toward the back door, and since you decided that you could walk all the way here on your own, I'm not carrying around your heavy ass back to the apartment, Naruto said as he opened the back door wide for the dog. Guruko whined as he limped through the back door, Naruto laughing at the dog's antics. Team 7 never met on Saturday and Sundays due to their sensei almost always having a mission on the weekends and the fact that in the beginning Team 7 really couldn't stand each other enough to be around each other every day of the week. Well, it was more like Sasuke couldn't stand his teammates and Sakura couldn't stand Naruto. Thus, they'd gotten into the practice of having the weekends off, and even when they'd grown closer to each other, it became such an ingrained habit that they didn't bother breaking it. Well, Sasuke and Sakura didn't bother breaking it. Naruto just gave up trying to get either of them to hang out with him on the weekends or any other day. So when Guruko woke up at 6 in the morning, a mere 6 hours after he and Naruto went to bed, to find that the blonde was already awake, the dog rolled over and groaned. Did Naruto ever sleep more than a few hours? Guruko gingerly hopped out of bed and searched around the apartment for the blonde to find nothing. Guruko groaned in annoyance. After a few more minutes, Guruko found himself in the kitchen and nestled down with an annoyed huff, only to hear an amused snort come from above him. Startled, Guruko looked up to see Naruto upside down, legs Indian style with hands in a hand seal for focus, practicing chakra control with a leaf on his forehead. Guruko felt his eye twitch. Did the blonde ever stop working? Morning sunshine, Naruto called cheerily, but Guruko noticed dark shadows under his eyelids despite the carefree tone. Guruko growled up at the blonde. No, the dog was not an early bird to get the worm. He hated worms. Now that you're up, I was thinking we could go train, Naruto said happily. Guruko moaned and whined as if he was still a pup and rolled over with a pitiful cry. Don't be that way. Well, go to a special training ground that nobody uses anymore and you can sleep all you want, Naruto said as he gently flipped from the roof and landed in a crouch upon the floor. Naruto grabbed his weapons pouch and a basket with a book in it before setting it beside the door. Why don't I pick you up some cooked meat on the way? Naruto asked teasingly. Guruko rolled onto his stomach and wagged his tail. He was tired, but cooked meat sounding much better than worms. Naruto laughed as he gently picked the dog up and slipped him into the basket beside the book. With that, they left the apartment. Naruto hummed that same strange but beautiful tune to Guruko as they walked down the streets of Konoha, blatantly ignoring the awful insults people spat harshly at him as he passed them by. Guruko growled at them, but Naruto just stroked his fur to calm him down, reminding him that it would cause more trouble than good. Still, when a man stretched and accidentally slipped his leg out as Naruto walked by, Guruko couldn't help but snarl at the man who nearly fell out of his seat in fear. Despite his reprimanding, Naruto couldn't help the slight snicker that escaped at the man's expression. When Naruto bought the promised meat under the disguise of a henge young woman, basket to hip and smile on her pretty lips. The stand that sold the meat to Naruto, under henge of course, was run by a man missing several of his front teeth. The man smiled broadly at the young woman, Naruto, as he gave the blonde a discount. Guruko snickered the whole way to the special training ground as he munched on his meat. Their walk took them several miles past the regular training grounds to a place within the shadows of the west side of the Hokage monument. The only light came in the form of a few rays seeping out from the thick forestry above. It was a peaceful place for a nap, just as Naruto promised. Naruto set the dog down beside him on the grassy forest floor and took the book out of the basket. Guruko settled beside the blonde and peered at the book curiously. Naruto smiled down at him as he leafed through to a certain page. Before the Chunin exams, Gigi called me up to his office to give me this book. He knew I always wanted to learn my mom's taijutsu style, so he kept the instructions safe from me until he thought that I could start learning it. Naruto explained with a gentle, loving smile on his face as he remembered the man he considered a grandfather. When I was little, he would tell me all sorts of stories about her, that I reminded him of her. He said she was an ANBU captain before she died and a medical kunoichi at that. Naruto frowned a little at that and looked down at the book before him blankly. I always wanted to be a medic nin like she was, but since I'm a Jinchuriki, that's impossible, Naruto said dejectedly. I've been trying really hard at making medicine though. I can't be a medic nin, but I want to learn how to be a regular medic at least. I won't be able to do the things she did, but I'll still be able to help my team. Both Sasuke and Sakura are great at genjutsu, but Sasuke's good at ninjutsu too, while Sakura's been focusing on her taijutsu since the Chunin exams. It's what really makes them useful to the team since we're an assault squad. Since I'm mainly a ninjutsu user, I've been reading a lot of medical books so that I can be the medic of my team, Naruto told Guruko. Guruko yipped happily up at him. Guruko thought the idea of the kind-hearted blonde being a medic fit the boy's personality perfectly. Maybe then I'll actually be able to do something right instead of always screwing everything up, Naruto muttered more to himself than Guruko. For her taijutsu style she used fans like Temari, only she had two and they were small, Naruto said as he scratched Guruko's ear, his voice coming out in an excited breath. I wanted to ask Kaka-sensei to help me, but… Guruko stiffened. It doesn't matter, I guess, Naruto said quietly. Guruko growled at him, demanding he be told why Kakashi wouldn't help him. Naruto sighed tiredly. He's just busy. He told me I needed to practice my basic forms first, so I did, for nearly 4 months now, Naruto said softly in resignation. I don't have the fans yet though, and they're pretty expensive for any person, not just me, so… and I can't get them till I get some new shinobi attire cause these are getting small on me, not to mention all my bills and other things I have to pay off, plus I'm gonna have to replace my weapons soon cause they're dull. I guess it was really a stupid thought from the beginning, huh? Naruto asked Guruko. Guruko frowned up at the blonde, angry about Kakashi's negligence and Naruto's negative attitude. It seemed on at least a few things Naruto didn't have much hope. What made it horrible to Guruko was that with each passing day it appeared that Team 7 was the root of that lost hope. It's too bad my mom's fans were destroyed with my family's home. I'll get a home of my own one day though, away from the village. I've even got one picked out, Naruto said with a contented smile on his face. It's a bit run down, but it's away from the village up against the wall in the most dense part of these forests. Gigi made sure that no one could buy it till I got enough money for it. Just a few more months I'll have enough. Just little while longer, Naruto said, stroking Guruko softly. The dog had the feeling that Naruto was talking more to himself than to him. All I got to do is make it a little while longer. Naruto closed the book and stood up. I'll just practice the academy form, and then see if Erosenin won't mind helping me with it. He should be here in a couple days, but… Don't be such a baby. I think you misunderstood something. I did promise to teach you jutsu, but I never said I would hold your hand and walk you through it. If you can't master it on your own, that's it. Stop being so juvenile, and start acting like a proper shinobi. I don't have the time. I'm not even going to sit and eat here. I'm going to scarf it down on my way to the city. If you can't think it through and figure out the knacks on your own, you'll never get better. I already told you 3 weeks ago, stop being such a baby, didn't I? You're a ninja. Guruko watched silently as Naruto's face fell completely. I'll just try to teach myself, Naruto said dejectedly. I need to stop being such a baby, Naruto whispered to himself as he sat down and opened the book again. Naruto positioned the book against a nearby tree, and stood in the first form, but it was slightly off from what the book showed. Naruto tried several different times to adjust his stance, getting close but then trying to fix it and accidentally making it worse. Naruto bit his lip as he moved his foot an inch to the right and noticed the entire stance go off kilter. This went on for a few hours, the blonde's frustration mounting as he tried to figure out the motions depicted in the book, but failed miserably. Taijutsu was simply something that needed some type of instructor. Guruko watched the blonde try again and again, wincing each time the stance got worse. Naruto chewed the bottom of his lip through till a thin line of blood dripped down his chin before wiping it away with a growl of frustration. He sighed as he peered behind him at the sun and noticed that it was early afternoon. Come on, Guruko, I'll take you home and feed you. Then there's this job I need to get to, Naruto said absently as he put the book back into the basket. Guruko nearly toppled over at that. Another job? Guruko thought incredulously. Naruto put Guruko in the basket, the dog pulling at Naruto's sleeve. What? Naruto asked, not understanding what the dog wanted. Guruko gently head-butted his shoulder and whined. Naruto still didn't understand though, and just shrugged helplessly. This would be so much easier if I could just ask him what I wanted to know, but damn the brat, he'd go tight-lipped immediately. When they got home, Naruto made himself a quick cup of ramen and refilled Guruko's bowl. The job I'm going to is just a shipping business that pays a lot for men who can lift their crates and stack them onto the carriages, or simply deliver heavier than normal packages around the city. Naruto explained as he got ready to leave. I should be back by 4 and then I'll take you out and feed you and go to the bar for the rest of the night, this time without a companion, Naruto said sternly. On the weekends I work at the bar from 7 to 3 in the morning, so don't bother waiting up for me. Just go to bed. Satoshi is gonna have me cleaning up the bar after everyone leaves. It makes a lot of money actually, so it's well worth it. Guruko growled his disapproval as Naruto began to water his plants. Don't be like that, Naruto said. It's not like I've got a choice. There aren't many places that will hire me, and some much worse than a bar, so it's a good deal. You shouldn't have to work so much just to get by, Guruko thought to himself. Naruto finished up and gave Guruko a pat before walking out the door. Naruto had come home drenched in sweat around 4:30, and then was out the door again by 6:30. Despite what Naruto said about not waiting up for him, Guruko slept on the kitchen floor so that when the door opened he would immediately wake up. Except the door never opened and Guruko didn't wake up till 7 the next morning. When the dog blurrily blinked several times to find shining rays of sunshine cascading through the curtains of the kitchen window, the dog felt his heart rip out of his chest. He checked Naruto's bedroom and then the bathroom. No Naruto. Guruko sniffed the air and noted that he couldn't smell Naruto's trail. Too many hours had gone by and the scent was simply too weak for him to pick up. It was something Pakken was a lot better at than him. The small dog could pick up a trail a couple days old. The dog panicked and limped his way out of the building and all the way to the bar. The Nin dog checked every room in the building from the shadows, his heart racing as each search came up empty. Guruko limped to the training grounds, Team 7's and Naruto's personal place, and howled in fear when still nothing came up. The sun was high in the sky, a sign that it was early afternoon already. Guruko limped back to the apartment building and slipped into Naruto's home, whimpering when he found no trace of the blonde. Back and forth from kitchen to the bedroom and from wall to wall the dog paced slowly, eyes continuously falling on the clock and watching the hand steadily move toward the end of another minute and turn into another hour. Finally, around 2 in the afternoon, the front door finally creaked open. Naruto stumbled through the door, bruises littering his entire body like an infestation, his frame shaking uncontrollably as he fell to his knees and dropped his black bandana and bandages onto the floor. Naruto's lips were swollen and bloody, hair dangling around his face with sweat and grime, tears pouring down his face as he shivered and breaths coming in harsh, strained gasps. Guruko's tail found its way between his legs as he limped hurriedly over and sniffed the blonde. Guruko cringed and yelped as the distinct smell of bodily fluids and blood that the dog recognized from missions with Kakashi. Missions where they'd found victims of attack by Rouge Ninja, rape victims. Naruto hiccuped and coughed harshly before he covered his mouth and shot up, running to the bathroom. Guruko heard the sound of retching escape from the wide-open door and winced. The dog felt his heart beginning to fall to pieces. Naruto was his companion, his friend, and that someone would hurt him like that caused the dog physical agony. Someone would pay for this, he would hunt down whoever did this and kill them. but for now he needed to be beside his companion. Just as Kakashi became Pakin's packed mate and Pakin Kakashi's familiar, Guruko found that Naruto had become his packed mate, and he Naruto's familiar. Guruko threw up his head and let out a loud howl of pure anger and sadness. Chapter 6. Congratulations, Sakura. Guruko gingerly licked the blood off Naruto's face as the blonde lay on the bathroom floor, staring blankly across the tile in front of him with his back against the wall. Guruko wanted desperately to go get help, but he didn't know where Sasuke and Sakura lived, and Kakashi was out of town. He could go to the Hokage Tower to get Tsunade, but that would take him nearly an hour to get to the center of the village with his leg in a cast. He didn't want to leave Naruto alone for such a long period of time when the blonde needed him. Not only that, but Guruko feared what might happen if the Jinchuriki was to be left on his own in his current state of being. Guruko gently nudged Naruto, but he didn't respond at all, just continued to stare ahead with blank eyes. The dog whined piteously, scared that Naruto had gone into shock. 3 long hours passed by before Naruto moved at all. Guruko was watching him studiously the entire time. Naruto moved stiffly from his laying position into a seated position with his legs spread out hazardously before him, back still against wall and eyes dull, but not completely blank as they'd been before. Naruto's lips were still swollen and the bruises showed angrily against his tan skin everywhere, but the dog managed to get the blood off him at least. Guruko let out a high-pitched cry that caused Naruto to slowly look over at him and blink a few times, but otherwise he didn't move. Guruko crawled forward, tail between legs, and nuzzled up to the blonde, licking his cheek affectionately. Slowly Naruto's right hand raised up to softly stroke the brown fur on Guruko's back. 20 agonizing minutes they stayed like that until Naruto pulled the dog closer and buried his face into Guruko's fur coat. "Sorry," Naruto whispered to him. "I'm so sorry." Guruko couldn't take it anymore. Naruto desperately needed him right now. "What are you sorry for?" Guruko asked. Naruto stared at him in shock, before tears started to stream down his face. "You!" Naruto croaked out in surprise and growing horror. "Me," Guruko answered solemnly. Naruto began to shake like a leaf as he stared at the dog. "You," Kaka-sensei said, "you can't, you shouldn't, it's just... Naruto was hyperventilating as the realization of the situation hit him like a ton of bricks. "You can't talk." "He said you couldn't," Naruto finally shouted in full-blown panic. "He lied," Guruko said quietly to the blonde. "I lied," the dog added. "No!" Naruto yelled out, hands holding the sides of his head. "No, no, 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 no!" Naruto said wildly as he lurched to his feet, but in his weakened state stumbled, his entire left side slamming against the bathroom's countertop and crumbling down to his hands and knees. "Naruto!" Guruko called. The dog rushed over and peered at the blonde that tightly gripped his shoulder, a grimace of pain on his face. You can't say anything, please!" Naruto begged the dog, his voice cracking slightly. Guruko nudged Naruto's cheek with his nose. "I can't let you be hurt like this, Naruto," Guruko said softly, eyes avoiding the blue orbs that gazed pleadingly at him. "You don't understand. Please, you can't say anything. I'm doing fine on my own," Naruto said tiredly, body leaning heavily against the cabinet. "Please, I don't want anyone to know. Everyone, they already think I'm useless. I don't want them to think I'm..." Naruto's voice shook horribly to the point that it was difficult to understand, and his voice dropped in pitch with each word. Naruto's body lowered to the floor again, as if the gravity was too heavy for him to bear, until his forehead lightly touched the tile and the long strands of straw-colored bangs touched the ground. "I don't want them to think I couldn't handle that. I don't want them to know what happened," Naruto whispered. Guruko shoved his head under Naruto's and forced the blonde to look at him. "This wasn't your fault," Guruko snapped. "Don't you ever think something like that was your fault." Naruto turned away from Guruko and bit his lip, wincing at the pain of his still swollen lips. "It was my fault, though. I wasn't strong enough to get away. I couldn't stand the pain to fight back hard enough," Naruto whispered. Guruko angrily shook his head. "Stop! Don't you dare blame yourself like this, Guruko said. Guruko forced his body between the nook that sat lay Naruto's knees and bent head, and then craned his head into the crook of Naruto's neck, forcing the blonde to sit up all the way. Guruko carefully crawled onto Naruto's lap. You don't understand, Naruto said softly. Guruko looked up at Naruto sadly. I'll be here for you if you want to talk about it, Guruko told him gently. Naruto tried to smile at him, but it failed miserably, and came out more as a restrained wince. Sorry, Naruto apologized again, though Guruko still didn't know what he was sorry for. Naruto squeezed Guruko in a tight hug before gently pushing the dog off his lap. You haven't eaten all day, have you? Naruto asked quietly. Naruto shakily stood up with a great deal of help from the bathroom counter, taking in a deep breath to steady himself. You need to get into bed, Naruto, Guruko said sternly. Naruto shook his head stubbornly. I'm not some kid who can't handle a little pain, I'll deal with it, Naruto replied as he walked out and into the kitchen area slowly. If you don't let your body heal, you could end up worse than you are. Naruto just shrugged at him. I'm a Jinchuriki, it will all heal in an hour or so tops. Guruko cursed under his breath. He'd gotten the scent of the people who'd committed the act though, 2 of them. He'd recognized them the first time they came within 20 feet of him. Guruko would enjoy sinking his teeth into their flesh after he hunted them down. Naruto sat on the floor with him at dinner time, but the meal was a silent one. Much to Guruko's vast annoyance, Naruto ate very little of his already small meal, staring down at the bowl of rice with blank eyes. The blonde said he still felt too sick to eat it, and that he'd eat the rest later though, so Guruko didn't argue. Afterward the blonde disappeared into the bathroom, this time the period between his entrance and the shower starting much longer than normal. Guruko couldn't blame him for wanting time by himself. Guruko awoke early Monday along with Naruto this time, by now used to the blonde's sunrise mornings. Guruko treaded around the blonde as if glass lay on the floor. Naruto refused to so much as even look in his direction. There was no tune coming from the kitchen when he woke up, and everything from watering the plants to pouring Guruko's food was done without a word. In fact, the only time Naruto spoke to the dog at all was when he informed Guruko on what he was doing that day. When Naruto said that he would be going on missions with Sasuke and Sakura for the day and that he, Guruko, would be staying home, the dog adamantly refused flat out to allow the blonde out of his sight, even though all the bruises and injuries the blonde had the day before were gone within a few hours, just as Naruto said they would be. Still, Guruko watched the boy carefully, weary of a relapse and eyes peeled for even the tiniest sign of pain in the preteen's expression. Truthfully, Guruko was at a loss for what he could do if it was there. Naruto had proven to be incredibly stubborn and resistant to any idea of help whatsoever. He'd tried to get the blonde to tell him who it was who'd committed the act with no success. Any type of thought towards going to someone for medical attention shot down. All attempts to convince him that the Hokage or Kakashi should be told ended in violent opposition. With this in consideration, Naruto was not in a good mood when they left the house an hour later to go to the training grounds. Once more the poor trees received the brunt of Naruto's negative emotions, and Guruko found himself increasingly thankful that they lived in the Fire Nation in the middle of a forest instead of Wind Country's desert. He had a feeling that Naruto's targets would have turned to small adorable animals such as himself. Guruko stayed the safe distance of 100 feet given that the killing intent reached to nearly 80 feet today, quite a feat for a genin, but he supposed that it was to be expected from a Jinchuriki. When Sasuke and Sakura arrived, they stared, quite startled at the huge chunks missing out of the trees. Naruto had decided halfway through that kunai weren't cutting it enough for him and started practicing his Rasengan to ease his frustration. Damn Jounin, Naruto said cheerfully, to which Sasuke achened in annoyance and Sakura looked toward the sky in exasperation. I really wish they wouldn't train here. It's gonna be difficult to find trees to practice chakra control on if they keep decimating them, the Pinkette said with a shake of her head. Guruko snorted and Naruto shot him a look to the side while Sasuke and Sakura weren't paying attention. Suddenly Sakura's mood changed as she seemed to remember something and turned to the 2 boys with a twinkle in her eyes. Sakura smiled broadly at the both of them, which immediately set Naruto on the alert. Sakura never smiled at him. You guys won't believe this, Sakura squealed excitedly. What? Naruto asked curious. Even Sasuke leaned in a little to hear better. I talked to Tsunade-sama, the new Hokage, and she's gonna take me on as her student, Sakura said happily. Naruto stiffened immediately, but smiled a moment afterwards, covering up his slip, not that either of his teammates noticed anyway. Tsunade's a great, medical kunoichi, you'll do great, Sakura. You've definitely got the abilities for it, Naruto said with a strange smile. Sasuke nodded in agreement. Congratulations, Sakura, Sasuke said, to which Sakura blushed in embarrassed pleasure, hands folded in front of her. The dog stared in shock and watched Naruto with sad eyes as Naruto suggested they wait for Kakashi to get back and then take Sakura out for a team dinner. Sakura agreed with her broad smile still in place, buzzing with excitement. He wondered how difficult doing this for Sakura was for the blonde. I always wanted to be a medic nin like my mom was, but since I'm a Jinchuriki that's impossible. I can't be a medic nin, but I want to learn how to be a regular medic at least. Since I'm mainly a ninjutsu user, I've been reading a lot of medical books so that I can be the medic of my team. Maybe then I'll actually be able to do something right instead of always screwing everything up. It must have been incredibly painful to smile through that, and it only made Guruko sadder to know that Sakura would never know how much she just hurt her teammate. It had been Naruto's special thing, what he considered to be his most important quality, and what he thought made him useful to the team. Naruto had apparently been studying medical books since he learned to read and been supplied by the third Hokage who knew exactly what books would be best for the blonde. He told Guruko that he wanted to surprise them on their first mission when a medic was required, so he hadn't said a word about it. He even had the credentials for it, much to Guruko's surprise. He'd hesitantly asked Shizen soon after they'd gotten back from retrieving Tsunade to test him, and she'd been delighted to find that he was good enough to help out in the hospitals if he wanted as a beginner, and quickly cleared the paperwork for him. Shizen said the only thing Naruto needed now was to gain experience through working with patients. Naruto replied that he would be happy to start work in the hospital as soon as he cleared up some things that would take a few months still to get sorted out. In the meantime, Shizen gave Naruto access to her personal library of regular medical books, to which she'd apparently giggled herself silly when Naruto hugged her tight, and couldn't stop thanking her enough. Naruto made her promise not to tell anyone about it though, not even Tsunade. Shizen thought it to all be a great idea and agreed. Naruto would never say anything to his team now, though. He was the type of person to never interfere with another's dreams, but encourage them in any way he could, even if it hurt him to do so. Team 7 was an assault team after all, and wouldn't need another medic, especially one without the chakra control to use medical ninjutsu. Guruko limped over and tugged on Naruto's pant leg, to which Naruto absent-mindedly patted his head. Naruto, why'd you bring Guruko? It's not a training day, Sakura asked as she peered at the dog. Naruto forced a laugh and turned all the way to Guruko, rolling his eyes. He whined and cried all morning to go with me, so I brought him to shut him up, Naruto said, to which Guruko huffed indignantly and whispered just loud enough for Naruto to hear. I did not whine, I demanded with dignity. A small smile graced Naruto's lips for a moment before Sasuke spoke. Dobe, you better not slow us down cause you're taking care of him, and don't even think that you're gonna shove the job on us. Naruto ignored him and picked Guruko up, following his teammates as they exited the training fields. You okay? The broad grin Naruto wore fell a little, but he nodded slowly in reassurance. I'm fine. Nevertheless, Naruto's grip on him tightened slightly, and wouldn't relax an inch until he was forced to put the dog down to do his job. Warning. Mild description of rape. Naruto stumbled and hit the ground, white powder cushioning his fall. Snow. He hated the snow with a passion. Everything in the world was dark except for the snow. It glowed with a savage wrath of death, cold, painful, empty death. Naruto raised his hands to his face, the fingers bluish-purple and tips turning black from severe frostbite. His feet were no better. The pain was unbearable. Every breath he took brought a cold, icy air into his lungs, before stealing his warmth with every exhale, white breath escaping from his lips as the tiny particles of water within him froze mid-air. Naruto stumbled to his bloody feet, eyes searching for a way out before his ears picked up a familiar sound. A voice, a female voice that sent shivers through his body, echoing from every direction. You were born a demon, that's why everyone hates you. You are truly the epitome of death. A thing that doesn't deserve to live but lives, bound in human form and a constant burden on this village. Your curse will be my pleasure now, though. You belong to me and I will have all the fun I want with you. If you don't fight, I'll make sure it's somewhat painless. If you do, however, that will only be more fun for me. That woman stepped forward from the darkness. Naruto turned and ran as fast as possible from her form and covered his ears as she began to chuckle, the small sound soon turning to outright laughter at his pitiful attempts at escape. Naruto turned down another lifeless, dark road and came to a stop as he came face to face with her again. Naruto tried to turn, to move, but mobility was suddenly beyond him. He screamed at his body to move, but the limbs simply refused to obey him. She was suddenly in front of him, caressing his cheek in a mocking show of affection. You weren't trying to run, were you, my little monster? The moment her fingertips touched his possession marks, Naruto felt her vicious lust run through his body, her icy hatred and desperate need to inflict pain on him. The emotions were painful to bear and it caused him to scream out, the sound echoing along the empty roads. Suddenly the background began to morph and twist until they both stood in a room. He was suddenly forced backwards onto a bed. He screamed and fought, but the woman in front of him only smiled. Her lips formed words and suddenly his world was enveloped in a fierce pain. As if his insides were being burned and ripped out, he arched his back in agony and a scream ripped through him. He felt the immense pounding of his heart as the feeling of acid being poured on top of the organ caused it to fluctuate and cry out to be released from his chest. From the shadows, a second female voice laughed merrily, grass-green eyes peering through the darkness in amusement. The black-haired woman took her time while he withered in agony beneath her, slowly taking off his clothes item by item. Then both women moved forward and lay on either side of him, slowly stripping themselves. Naruto tried to rise, to run, to fight, but she simply whispered those hateful words again, and the pain intensified tenfold. Naruto clenched the bed sheets and stiffened when cold fingers touched his stomach. He opened his eyes to see her face directly in front of his, but her eyes were looking at his stomach, the seal visible as always. TSK, TSK, TSK. You naughty child, you've gained quite a bit of weight, haven't you? Her fingers gently pinched the skin on his stomach. I like seeing your ribs, she whispered in his ear, like seeing your hip bone, but now they're covered in fat. Been indulging yourself a little too much? She placed her unclothed knee against his stomach and pressed down hard, until he let out a gasp of intense pain. Lose it, or I'll make sure every night you don't spend with me is filled with pain, she whispered, black hair falling in front of her and onto his chest. Stop that, the grass-green-eyed woman said. I want to have fun too, you know. Stop hogging the little slut. Naruto suddenly felt himself falling through the bed and tumbling down a dark drop before his body collided with something. Trembling, he pushed himself up to find himself near Team 7's training grounds, thankfully fully clothed again. He stumbled to his feet, pain racking his body and trying with all his might to push his emotions beneath his feet and gain control. He was sinking beneath the surface again, water rising around him. He needed his anchors. He needed the people he considered family right now, even if they would never consider him to be part of theirs. Naruto sloshed through the rising water to Team 7's bridge where they all stood. Naruto could have cried, he was so happy to see them. Just being there with them gave him strength to continue on. Their images were shadowed though, gray and dark like everything else in this world. Kaka-sensei? Sakura-chan? Sasuke team? Naruto called hesitantly. It was as if the on switch was suddenly clicked by an unknown source. They came to life, their features full of life as they turned to him. Naruto couldn't help but give a grateful sigh of relief as he moved faster through the water till he stood on the bridge, its frame just above the water line. Suddenly, though their faces contorted in disgust as they finally saw him, the dark looks causing the blonde to freeze and his heart to beat faster in panic. Naruto's smile fell as they stared at him with the same hatred of the rest of the village. We know Naruto, Kakashi said in his deadly soft voice. No? Naruto asked softly in confusion. We know what a filthy whore you are. Sasuke said harshly, voice filled with disgust and loathing. Naruto took a step back in shocked horror. I didn't, it wasn't my choice. Naruto stuttered out, voice trembling as he tried to hold back a sob. Yeah right, Sakura said mockingly. I bet you like the attention. Always grabbing for it like some sick wretch. Naruto took another step back, biting his lip as he tried to keep himself together. I never wanted anything like that. I tried so hard to fight her but she… Kakashi interrupted him. Not only are you useless as a shinobi and teammate, but you're a filthy, worthless slut, Kakashi said, shaking his head in disappointment. Naruto wrapped his arms around himself as his shaking got worse. Please stop it, Naruto whispered brokenly. You were never meant to be on this team anyways, Sakura said coldly. Think about it. Kakashi Hatake, the famous copycat ninja and one of the elite jounin in Konoha, Sasuke Uchiha, the Rookie of the Year and star pupil that everyone wanted to train, and me, Sakura Haruno, the highest-ranking kunoichi of our class. Naruto took a step back, his feet dipping into water. Then there's the fourth member of our team, you, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto took another step back into the cold liquid. The worthless, no-talent imbecile who never manages to do anything right at all and only screws up our missions. Naruto didn't even realize he was moving backwards as the water reached his knees. Please stop, his voice was shrinking. Kakashi looked at Naruto in contempt as he spoke. You were a mistake from the very beginning. The council only put you on this team because you are a Jinchuriki who they wanted me to keep an eye on. Naruto felt the water splash against his hips. I couldn't wait to get rid of you the first chance I got during the finals. All your whining for me to teach you this and that, you were pathetic. So useless at the same time, not able to understand any of my explanations, you gave me headaches just thinking about trying to explain anything to someone so unbelievably stupid. Naruto felt the icy water swallow his stomach up in its grip. Please stop, barely a whisper now. Sasuke shook his head in ill-concealed hatred. Filthy, disgusting little bitch, you really thought that I'd consider you to be my friend? You think you deserve to have friends? You'd make us all incredibly happy if you just killed yourself instead of constantly bothering us. Naruto felt the water sweep up against his heart, and continued to rise. Everything about you makes me sick. You're weak, a nuisance to everybody and annoying as all hell. I can't wait to become a chunin just so I won't ever have to see your face again. The water washed over him and he let it take him whole, tears mixed up within the icy liquid. His anchors to the shore were what tugged him to the bottom of the ocean floor now. He felt numb, hollow to the very core. He wanted nothing more than to die and get it all over with. Naruto took a huge breath and let the water into his lungs. Ah! Naruto sat up from bed, beads of sweat falling down his face as he gasped for air. A nightmare, a realistic nightmare that combined his memories and fears. Huff, huff, huff. Naruto peered around his dark room and brought his knees to his chest as his hands shook uncontrollably. Moonlight illuminated the room in an eerie glow, clouds causing strange shadows to dance upon the walls in a rhythmic fashion. At the end of the bed a brown-furred dog lay with pointed ears, not unlike a wolf's. Guruko, Naruto whispered softly. The dog didn't stir, obviously tired out by the day of keeping up with Naruto with an injured leg. Naruto bit his lip and slipped out of bed, heading toward the bathroom. Naruto gently closed the door behind him and let his body slide down the door before he shakily reached for one of the drawers. Guruko woke up to the sound of a merry tune. Light streamed through the curtains in an irritatingly bright way that only the sun could accomplish. Grumpily, Guruko got out of bed and stretched, yawning contentedly as he felt his back pop into place. Guruko walked through the curtain that Naruto used as his bedroom door into the kitchen to find Naruto sitting at the table with his mother's book in his hands, poring over the instructions and adding notes here and there. Morning sleepyhead, Naruto called cheerfully. Naruto wore one of his long-sleeved shirts again with his usual orange jacket over it. You call the break of dawn to be sleeping in? Sheesh. Guruko muttered darkly as he lay beside the table. Naruto laughed good-heartedly and put the dog's food bowl beside him. Let's see, it's Tuesday and I'm bringing you in to Hana-san on Thursday. I'll be busy all weekend with work, which means if I want to get Sakura's birthday present I'm gonna have to do it today or tomorrow since her birthday's on Monday. Can you believe she'll be 14? Naruto asked as he poured some tea for himself, which Guruko noted he did not add sugar to for some reason. Yes, I can. She's been a genin for a year and a half now, so it's the right age. Guruko said with another yawn. Hee, she's nearly a year older than me and Sasuke's at least 9 months older than me. Naruto commented thoughtfully. So your birthday's coming up soon? Naruto shook his head at the dog and laughed. No, it's already passed. It was a month ago. Guruko's eyes widened. Kakashi never said anything though, and he always summons us for your guys' birthdays. Guruko said in bewilderment. Naruto visibly flinched and looked away. It's alright, I know why we didn't celebrate it. My birthday's also the day that Kakashi's sensei died. You know, the whole Kyuubi attacking the village and got sealed into me thing? Naruto said and laughed loudly as he started to walk around the room and water his plants. Both Guruko and Naruto knew that the laugh was forced and painful though. While walking through the crowds of Konoha, Guruko took to snapping viciously at all the people who got too close or glared at the blonde as he passed. Naruto reprimanded him the whole way, but Guruko could hear the hidden relief in the preteen's no, he was 13 now, the teen's voice. Guruko was aware that Naruto was a year younger than his classmates because Kakashi once commented that the third Hokage purposely placed Naruto into the academy a year early to get him out of the foster homes faster. A couple weeks ago, me and Sasuke saw Sakura looking in the window of one of the shops here. She was looking at a necklace with a silver chain and this heart-shaped pendant with light green emerald around its edge. They had lots of the same pendants with different colors, but that was the one she was looking at. Naruto was telling him as they walked. Guruko was sure it was just Naruto's way of blocking out all the whispers, rather than his want to talk so much. Me and Sasuke agreed that I'd get that for her, and that he'd get her something else, since he didn't want her misunderstanding it as some love confession with the heart and all. Naruto said cheerfully. Training that day panned out like all other days. Sasuke and Sakura sparring this time around while Naruto, once again on his own, worked on his chakra control. This time, instead of simply sitting on the water doing the leaf exercise, Naruto stood on his hands, balancing carefully atop the water while having a leaf stuck to every part of his body. The new exercise failed miserably the first 10 or so times, much to Guruko's amusement, who sat on the edge of the water watching. By the afternoon, though, the blonde stayed completely balanced for an hour straight. When they called it a break for the afternoon, and were all about to go get lunch, Sakura tapped Naruto on the shoulder, who flinched at the unexpected contact and caused her to frown at him. Naruto, Tsunade-sama wants you to meet her in her office for some reason. She said I should tell you the first time we took a break today. Sakura said, and I know you did something stupid again, didn't you, voice? Naruto stared blankly at her before his gaze fell on Guruko and a look of understanding fell on his features, then turned to horror, which then decided to pale to nearly white, before finally settling on a grin so wide that only the immensely unobservant or uncaring could not see it as a complete fake. While both Sasuke and Sakura saw that it was fake, they believed that Naruto was merely being his normal dramatic self, and so did not attempt to ask or question it. Well then, I should probably go see her then, Naruto said cheerfully. Do you mind taking Guruko with you guys? I've got a feeling Bachan's not gonna be in a good mood, so it's best I not bring the injured animal with me. I sorta broke one of her vases the other day, and she's pretty mad. Wow, lies just fly right out of your mouth, don't they? Guruko thought irritably as Sasuke glared at him but picked Guruko up. You're completely useless, you know that? Sasuke snapped. Naruto flinched, but turned too quickly for his two teammates to see. Guruko growled threateningly at Sasuke, who looked down at the dog in surprise. Naruto jogged away from them, his hand waving behind him in farewell. Sasuke snorted and joined Sakura, who happily hopped behind him, glad to gain some alone time with the Uchiha. Later that afternoon, when Naruto finally rejoined his team, Guruko could tell that something bad happened and guiltily avoided the blonde's eyes as he knew it was his fault. Sasuke and Sakura didn't seem to notice the put-out expression though, and just continued to spar until Sasuke managed to get a good hit on the pinkette and she forfeited. Sasuke turned to Naruto with a superior smirk on his face. Come on Naruto, let's spar, Sasuke demanded. Sakura froze and looked up from the bottle of water she'd been about to take a sip of. You two aren't allowed to spar without Kakashi-sensei around to monitor you too, Sakura said sternly as she remembered the spar from the hospital rooftop just 3 weeks ago. We won't use our A rank or B rank jutsu then, Sasuke said with a smirk. No Chidori, no Rasengan, no fire jutsu or shadow clones. What do you say, Naruto? A simple taijutsu match? Sasuke continued, baiting the blonde. Naruto looked away from them, knowing what Sasuke was doing. They both knew Naruto's taijutsu was horrendous and both knew that Sasuke spent the month with Kakashi working specifically on that and the Chidori. Sasuke had become so angry with him since the spar on the roof that he took every opportunity to show Naruto just how much better he was at everything. Naruto shook his head tiredly. He couldn't take Sasuke's games right now, not after the awful argument he had with Tsunade. Sasuke glared angrily at the blonde as Sakura sighed in relief. Why not? You can't tell me that you're that tired after only a little chakra training. You're an even bigger idiot than I thought you were, Sasuke said in disgust. A deeply hurt look entered Naruto's eyes, but Sasuke ignored it and walked away with hands in pockets. Why don't you take that stick you got so high up your ass out, you prick? Naruto shouted out after Sasuke as he turned and stomped away through the trees, Guruko quickly following behind him. When they entered far enough back in the woods, Naruto rounded on Guruko, a fierce look of anger and betrayal on his face. His fists were clenched till crescent moons formed in the palm of his hands and blood slowly began to drip down from his fingers to the ground below. Naruto, Guruko began. How dare you? Naruto hissed. I let you into my home and took care of you just as Kakashi asked, and you turn around and repay me by telling Bachan about my personal life? The killing intent was monumental but focused, barely contained in the little area they stood in. Guruko fought hard against it just to speak. You're being horribly mistreated and hurt by shinobi of this village. It needs to be stopped. Guruko growled out. Naruto seethed. And why is that any of your business? Naruto asked angrily. I'm a Jinchuriki, for God's sake. We're treated like the plague no matter where we go or what we do, and nothing you or Tsu Bachan does will change that unless I make people see me for my accomplishments and deeds. Nothing. You think you growling at people's gonna make them stop hating me? It might make me feel better for 2 seconds, but in the end it's worse off than if you'd done nothing, because then they're angry with me, not you, but me. You think Bachan setting up new laws or orders is gonna stop anyone from hurting me? Let me tell you something, the law that Gigi, the third, made only hurt me. You work 3 different jobs. You're exhausted all the time, no matter how hard you try to hide it. I can see it, Guruko said quietly. Naruto looked about ready to throttle him. I have never failed a mission because I was tired, Naruto spat. I've completed all the assignments given to Team 7, and I've only missed training every once in a great while. What happens during my own free time is my business, and no one else's. It was Guruko's turn to glare at Naruto. I don't care about the stupid missions. Naruto, you can't keep doing this to yourself. It's not right that your rent is so high and that the only things you can afford to eat is rice and ramen. It's not right that a 13-year-old works at a bar to make ends meet. Naruto shook his head as if he was in an argument with a child. The world isn't a nice place. You either have to grow up or die, and I decided that I slightly like living. Naruto snapped. Then why don't you make living a bit easier for yourself and simply ask for help? Guruko asked, burning with curiosity. Naruto glared at him, but the look was less fierce than last time and far more fearful. I told you, I don't need anyone's help, especially not Kaka-sensei's or Bachan's. Naruto said. Fine. You don't need it but would definitely be better off with it. Guruko sighed tiredly. Naruto shook his head stubbornly. Do you know what that so-called help is? Bachan threatened to get Ibiki to interrogate me for the man's name. She threatened to investigate and destroy everyone that was connected to that man in even the slightest way. Do you think that helps me? You think all those people being punished is going to help me in any way possible? Naruto asked, an icy touch to his voice. When people get punished because they've done something wrong to me, then they just blame that on me too, and slowly the people become even angrier at me until even worse things happen. Everything has consequences even when you're doing something for the good of someone. Things simply never work out the way you want, Naruto growled darkly. You sound like that Hyuga you fought in the finals that Kakashi talked about. Didn't you convince him not to talk so much about fate and destiny? Guruko argued back. Naruto chuckled at that before it grew into full-blown laughter. I don't believe in fate or destiny. You create your own paths and should never give up, but that's just it, you're going about it the wrong way. I'm also realistic. I know how to fight, I know how to win, and it's not the way you're going about it. You don't fight an entire village with brute strength, it doesn't work. I'm not giving up, I'm just trying to fight in a way that might eventually win, and it seems that you're determined to ruin it for me, Naruto said tiredly, for the first time allowing his exhaustion to show through. Naruto, you can't let them hurt you like this, Guruko finally said as he limped up to the blonde, and nudged his muzzle against his leg. Naruto bent down and stared straight into the dog's eyes. Guruko, you've got to believe me, how I'm fighting is the only way that works in a situation like this. And I don't let them hurt me, I fight hard against them when they corner me, but it's difficult to win when your opponents have such a powerful advantage against you. I might be losing a lot of the battles, but the losses are small when I look at the bigger war that I am winning, Naruto said with a small smile on his face. Can't you just give me the names of the people that hurt you? Guruko asked quietly. Naruto snorted. Take the list of citizens and shinobi, extract about 10 names maybe, and you've got it. Guruko gave an annoyed look at the blonde who smirked at him before huffing and limping back toward the training grounds. A smile tugged at Naruto's lips as he got back to his feet. Guruko! Naruto called. The dog looked back at the blonde with curiosity. There's something I want to show you, but you have to promise not to tell anyone. That's it for part 2. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.